Good morning and welcome to Rise and Shine Sundays. My name is Jamie Rich, and I am delighted that you are joining us for this morning's conversation. Um, every week, we gather for a roundtable discussion around a topic where all voices are welcomed. There is no expert that's going to be handing out advice to you in this particular gathering, but there are a number of people who are gathering with us, both in the room here at RSS Live and also watching us on the Breakthrough Show Network. Um, we can keep comments that you put in the chat and incorporate them as part of the discussion. But as always on Sundays, we look forward to having a conversation about what emerges around a central question. And this particular week's question grew out of a conversation we were having last week. And we decided that we wanted to focus on something to do with embodiment. So we wanted to put it in the framework of an integrity walk. And we'll get to why that is in just a second. But oftentimes we have all of these aha moments, and we realize that we rely a lot on our brain to simply say, oh, well, I've had this wonderful awareness. Well, wait, why isn't my life changing? Why isn't there some way that this kind of gets translated into my daily practice? So one of the things that we're inviting you to consider this week is in this conversation, we're going to be speaking a lot about that shift that took place inside your head when there was an aha moment. And then, wait a second, I've had this awareness. Am I really wanting to put this into practice? So as always, I'm always grateful for the people who decide to join us in the roundtable. And as always, welcome guests this morning. Good morning, Sang. Good morning, Ray. And good morning, Jaloki.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone, and good morning, world and universe.
Yes.
We have incorporated everyone into the conversation, and we are truly today. We are spanning the whole the whole Western Hemisphere. I think today, because we've got people from all the way up in Canada to all the way down into the Southern Hemisphere. So, Sang, can you help us put this conversation into a good frame as we begin? It's one of the things that you do so wonderfully well.
Oh, I love this part. This is my favorite. Well, I want to talk about integrity walk in terms of, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a topic of how it came up. And
Sure.
when you decide you want to do something, it then becomes, what actions am I going to take after that? It's one thing, like Jamie said, to be aware that you want to be in integrity. For me, it was about being in integrity with myself. And then what happens is, when is the opportunity for me to actually operate in that way, right? And so it's about making these conscious choices day to day, like every day. Like, let's say, for example, you want to be more kind, right? You want to embody the word kindness. What are you doing every single day to exude kindness, to be kind, to help others feel seen and heard? What are those small actions? Because it does take those small actions that add up to bigger things, because you're leaving like little pieces of impressions of yourself everywhere. And so that's a part of the embodiment of it. Like, what am I actually doing? It's one thing. It's like, that phrase, which I love sometimes, is, when you know better, you do better.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. But we do kind of know better. We don't always do better.
Right. Because we haven't practiced better. And we have a vision in our head when we have this awareness of how easy everything can be. But then we don't have that moment to be able to give ourselves that permission slip to say, all right, you're heading in that direction. And that's what I really loved about the experience of walking. Can you, I know you shared a little bit about this. If you don't mind, would you share us a little bit more about how in your life that walk became present?
So I have lived a very fascinating life, right? I've done all kinds of things. I've been homeless. I've been unhomeless. I've have probably had over 40 different types of jobs on the planet. I've done everything under the sun. I've been MacGyver, everything. The only thing I won't do anymore is climb on a roof. Okay. I'm not doing that anymore. So there was a time where I was being offered a position, and the position was going to be super huge. It was going to change a lot of things for me and my family. And unfortunately, I had bonded with the interviewer and bonded with the company, and it was just a perfect fit. You know, things just feel so good. But I could not, with myself, go back and accept the job offer because I knew I had something on my record that wasn't going to allow me to accept this job. And I did not want these people to go in, find this information, and then have to come back and tell me what I already knew. And so I decided to have the conversation with the interviewer and explain to her. I was crying the whole time. I was nervous for like, gosh, 2 days before because I was like, I have to do this, you know, because it was something that I wanted to walk with myself because I knew I wanted to do something different on the other side. And this was going to be a big, huge piece of that. Like, this lady doesn't know me from anyone. And so having that conversation, she then agreed to go to the board to have a conversation with the board. And due to the nature of the industry, I was not able to accept the job regardless, which was fine. However, even though I chose to walk in that space and this happened and I did some bad things in the past, it was I still have a relationship with them to this day. I still send them referrals. I send them clients. So it wasn't that I did this bad thing and they're going to hate me and they're not going to like me anymore. It was I got to show this is who I am.
Right.
This is what I represent. What I did in the past does not define who I am today. And so I still get to be in relationship with them in some capacity.
Yeah. What you've said is so beautiful is because the walk helps you rewrite your future. Does that make sense? In other
Mhm.
words, when you decide to embody some kind of, this was a new environment. There was a past story that existed, right? But in order for you to, have that shift take place, you'd made the change, but it requires you making those same things. Has that ever, Jaloki? Does this wisdom walk sound familiar to you?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Sang. Thank you, Jamie, Ray. And again, welcome everyone. So, one of my backgrounds is Haitian Vodou. And in Vodou, one of the values, one of the teaching, which we call what human want to aspire to, is the value of the franc guinéen. And a franc guinéen is a realized human being, is a person for whom what they think, what they say, what they do, and I personally add what they feel, are in alignment,
Mhm.
which I believe is what Sang has been talking about. And for me, we as human, we compare ourselves. We say what makes us human is we stand straight, but there are animals who stand straight. We have language. Now we know that animals have language too. We make mistakes. We have emotion. Maybe being able not to be in alignment with ourselves is what makes us human. And so having to decide, having to have the choice, am I walking in alignment with all myself because we're multidimensional?
Mhm.
Maybe that's what makes me human. And if I choose to do it or not, it will make me a different human. And hearing a story like Sang's, I think, at least for me, but I would hope for every human, it's so inspiring. So inspiring. Oh, I want to be like her when I grow up. So yeah.
Well, Oftentimes a lot of creative people get very paralyzed because they're aware of the magnitude of the choices that you've made. If I bring myself in alignment with my past self, my future self, the spirit world, the luminal world, Joe down the street, Mary who hates me, whatever, it seems like such a daunting task, right? And it's true, when you walk in your integrity, when you walk in that space, you get to draw on all of the power from those places. But Ray, do you find a lot of people get paralyzed just simply by beginning their walk?
Yeah, I think there's so many things that have been touched on so far. Is yeah, the making a decision or being stuck in the past. And what I liked from Sang's story is it was a courageous act. It was also an authentic act to engage in a conversation with others, not knowing what was going to happen. The fear would have been, well, I'm not going to say anything, and I'll that excludes me from the process. But it's actually the opposite. She already identified that, well, they'll find out and they're going to say something, or they cut off the discussion. You continued the discussion that has longevity. Look, you're still in contact with them, and also you literally demonstrated your true self, because you basically said, hey, look, this is what's happened, this is what's in my past, but I may not be able to fit with you. But then they realized that it's, as we talk quite often, everything is relational, not transactional. So you're not the transaction. It was not a transaction to have an interview to get a job. It was about establishing a relationship with a company or a group of individuals within that context. So stuck is part of the decision making process, as well as a little bit of courage to get unstuck. We don't have to go into the details of, well, how do you do that? That's part of this discussion.
Well, and that's also part of another show. I mean, one of the nice things about this, we're discussing today the concept of what is an integrity walk, and are you ready to begin one? That I think it's that recognition point of the beginning of where we are in this situation. And I know if you're just now joining us on YouTube, or if you're just now popped into the room, if you have some thoughts about that, please put them in the chat and we'll work them in. But I really want to kind of go back to something that Jaloki was talking about, and maybe it weaves in something with you saying as well, which is, it is finding out that you've had the awareness, right? You know that there's this moment when you can make it different, and finding the courage then is giving yourself the permission slip to work small, right? And even though it seemed huge in that moment that but certainly in the clients that you've worked with, sometimes sharing it with other people, you know, what is it that they say, Jaloki? The greatest distance is between the head and the heart, but it's recognizing that it's okay to start small when you're trying to incorporate changes like this in your life. Oh, and I see Claudia has her hand up.
Yes, we have a new feature: is you can raise your hand, or you can just speak up.
Speak up, Claudia. Well, let your voice out.
Make sure you're not muted or unmuted.
I am muted. Now I'm unmuted. Thank you.
Yay.
I just wanted to say that through my journey of awakening, and we have these thoughts and we go, aha. And then you asked, how do we embody that? Well, we live in a world where we are very much conditioned. We're conditioned to respond a certain way. We're conditioned to speak a certain way. And so it's about having that aha. For me, it's about having that aha moment that comes from many dimensions of our lives. And then taking that aha movement and going beyond my conditioning to embody that, and then stopping myself when I find myself falling back into that conditioning. and living from that embodied truth that I know is beyond this dimension, and and reminding myself to be in touch with that embodied truth as much as I can, and living from that, and responding from that, not reacting from my conditioning. Um, and so, what I have found over the years is that I've become more attuned to my truth, and I've become increasingly empowered to that attunement, or from that attunement.
Mhm.
And so now I don't automatically react to things. I sit with things, and if it needs an immediate response, I try to remember to go to my embodied truth for that response. It doesn't always work,
It doesn't.
but but I'm finding that it's working more and more now.
Right.
And maybe that just comes with time and age, but I
Mhm.
think a lot of it has to do with being very much aware of the multidimensional facets we live in here, and being aware of my own embodied truth.
Right. And you and Claudia, thank you very much for sharing your comments, because what I love about these conversations is you brought in the word of the week, which is the word of the week this week is going to be deconditioning. It's a really important word that allows us to not only recognize that we are working through a lot of conditioning, conditioned behavior. Was this handed to us? Was it something we picked it up? Was it something we learned? And we get so caught up in those aha moments just because, well, wait, I had mental clarity about what I should do. So therefore, the battle should all be over. But really, when I so love the word deconditioning, because it's a gentle reminder that in case you don't get it right the first time, or the second time, or the third time, you're really learning and open to the process of deconditioning. And that's what helps, as you're working through the embodiment of something, to kind of give yourself that gentle reminder of, well, you know what? This is what deconditioning is all about. Did you have to decondition some things saying? I mean, does that word ring true with you?
So many things, because you get stuck in a cycle where it's an automatic, right? It was just automatic. And like I said, something comes up, and this is where your cognizant mind has to go, okay, this is happening. This is a moment for me to practice what I said I wanted to do for myself. And who knew it was going to be such a big thing that would be the first thing? But that helps with everything else, because really it was small things that I had chosen not to walk in integrity with, because I didn't think it was a big deal, right? And so once I made that decision, this was like at the end of 2021, 2020, no, 2022, sorry, it was the end of 2022. And once I made that, it was so interesting how the universe was like, "Oh, now I know that you're ready. Let me just go ahead and throw this at you as well." Right? And then
Yeah.
continue the journey, because it integrated it into something else I had chosen to do. So I want to be clear. I made a decision before that happened, before that interview happened, that I wanted to walk in integrity with myself. Then I was presented with this opportunity to show my work, basically, as they say. And so then from there, it was like, okay, you did this big thing, because that was huge for me. And then I'm going to give you this other project that you said you wanted to work on. And now you're going to work on that for the next several years. And so being able to pinpoint those little moments, like what Claudia was talking about, where sometimes it gets exercised and sometimes it just doesn't, because sometimes the old way feels much better. And then the after effect obviously does not feel as much better. Then it's like what Jaloki was talking about. You have all these different things that come in. The feeling that I had I not sat across from the lady on the computer to tell her that, and then to have them go do all that work and pay for this background check and to do all this stuff only to come back to tell me something I already knew and I have to act surprised. It was something that I know I have to be in truth with myself. And when I'm walking in integrity with myself, everyone else can walk in integrity with me as well.
Yeah, you create that space for others to join you in that integrity walk because you're walking in a new direction. All right, Ray, I have to ask the question because you put you put an acronym in the chat and I don't know what our OODA loop is. Can you share what that OODA loop is?
I'll have to confess, I did that deliberately because it's actually something Sang had said a couple calls ago, is about pausing, and what Claudia brought up in regards to, okay, what's the behavioral shift and how do we remind ourselves? And the OODA loop is actually, it's an Air Force pilot. When asked, when he was giving lectures and talks about his career, he said, well, how do pilots in a fast-paced environment, a high-pressure environment, make a decision? And he said, well, it says in training and in experience, we have what we call the OODA loop. And OODA stands for observe, see what's happening, pause, orient, okay, what's the context, then decide what action you want to take. So what they're doing is it's speeding out, it's slowing down to speed up, if that makes sense. As I love that expression. If you want to do something serious, slow down. So then the A is the act, what decision? Because they have microseconds to decide whether something coming at them is a threat or not a threat, or something that they have to do. So I think what I loved about what Claudia was saying and saying as well, and all of you essentially, is we have to understand that there's conditioning, look at how we fit into that, and then decide what to do about it, and do it over and over again.
So would you repeat those four things for those of us who are slow?
Observe what's going on, orient, oh, what's the context? Is this once in a while, or is this happening regular, back to patterns, right? So observe, orient, decide. And also what's been shared in previous conversations, thanks to Sang and Yoloki as well, is, okay, a decision made today is not a position cast in stone. It means whatever context it's in, it may work today, but it may not be the same decision. So that's why the repetition. So decide and then act.
Okay.
In today's conditioning, just to wrap up, everybody's pushed into make a decision, press that button, click, click, click. Now.
Right. So let's marry these two concepts together. So maybe the OODA is sort of the modus operandi of deconditioning, right? Because you can say you're deconditioning, but just like Sang is saying, oftentimes you'll slip back into conditioned behavior. And I'm going to swear now because, we get to do that. One of the things that I think has fucked up so many people is there's been a lot of pop psychology out there that says, change your mind, change your life. And to think that everything exists on the mental level, misses that whole idea of pausing, observing, deconditioning. And I can see Jaloki smiling up there. So there has to be something that you may want to add into this, of some of the ways in which we bypass from here, thinking that that's the solution.
Exactly. It's like you read my mind. It's not something that I want to add. It's what I'm getting from what everybody said just in the last few minutes. I'm actually deconditioning myself right now. Don't want to go into too much detail, but some cultural analysis describes certain culture as low context, high context. We can, people can do their research, and the modern Western culture is known to be result oriented as opposed to process oriented. And so I even the modern Western culture is not the only culture I've been conditioned with. It is one strong of them. And so when I see a walk of integrity, for me, okay, the result is integrity. So I'm focused on integrity, on the result. But now I'm listening to Sang, I'm listening to Claudia, I'm listening to Ray, I'm listening to you, Jamie, and it's not about the result. It's the process that counts. It's the walk. We're talking about a walk here. Okay, integrity is it's the intention, but what's most important about what I will do after my behavior, it's the walk. Maybe it's going to work, maybe it's not going to work. But if I keep walking, I'm going to be transformed over time. But if I'm focused on the result, on the integrity, it's not going to work.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Because we've been trained again. We've been conditioned to borrow our word of the week again. That we need to stay focused. Keep your eyes on the prize. Make sure that whatever you're doing in this integrity walk, that you're really going to get there. Where's that carrot? I got to keep going forward into this because the result of what I do is getting there. And what you're inviting people to consider, that taking the integrity walk, using the OODA, right, that Ray gave us, allows you to, well, wait, while I'm on this walk, what am I observing? What is this process? What is this process informing me of, rather than my goal-oriented nature to say, well, I know exactly what the cookie is I'm going to get at the end of this. I mean, that's a big thing. Did you notice that, saying, in terms of for yourself, because you didn't have any idea, knowing what the result was going to be when you began? I mean, we keep coming back to I'm sure this wasn't the only example in your life where there was an integrity walk, but does some of this resonate?
No, yeah, absolutely. When it wasn't, it's one of those things that I made a conscious choice, right? And people around me knew I was making a conscious choice. So that was the other thing. I pulled people in who were part of my journey with me, and they knew the things of the past. They knew that I was working on walking a different path in life. And so having those people with you on the journey as well is also helpful, because they can, they're with you in your downs and lows, for sure, right? Your ups and downs. Wow, downs and lows, same thing, saying Jesus Christ. Um, um, but being able to, it's not like you wake up every day and go, okay, what am I going to do today to be in integrity, right? It's not. It could be like that the first couple of days, like getting a new shiny car or something, right? But it's slowly, it's the small things that you start doing, right? Like keeping your word, um, doing something, going above and beyond, doing something that, who are you to the core, right? And when you start doing those things where it's automatic for yourself and you feel good about it, to me, it became one of those things that it just became an automatic thing for me, right? I'm now slowly tearing apart the old ways, right? However, when they do creep up, I go, oh, well, that's an interesting little thing that's happening here. What would I normally do in this situation? And usually it was not as small as something. It was something probably a little bit bigger, where I had to have a conversation with a person or share something with someone, which always gives a lot of people anxiety to have a conversation with other people, because you don't know how they're going to react, right? And they may not understand what your walk in integrity means. Because I remember having a conversation with an individual to say, this is what I chose. I chose to do this. So why would I sit here and do that if I chose to do this? And they were just not receptive to that whole conversation and did not care. Right. And so that caused some more, that part of that walking on the journey, that was part of it. Cause now I'm like, okay, they don't care about my journey. They don't care about my integrity walk. How dare they? And so then it just becomes more of, yes, I've got to be able to have the conversations. I'm going to be able to find the small things that add up to the big things. But at the end of the day, I know that I've walked in integrity with myself. I know that I presented as saying, and I feel good about it in all levels. And this is what it is. But it's okay if someone else doesn't accept me as I am yet, because there's still some things that we're all working through.
Right.
And we can't expect everybody else to also be where we are or understand where we are when, like, I think we talked about this last week, when someone else hasn't walked through their own walk of self.
Right. Well, and Ray just popped in the chat. Do you want to go ahead and build on that thought? I also
Oh,
want to just put a shout out to Jessica Dugas, who's listening. There's some things going on technically in the room that I don't quite understand. So if there's someone can message me to let me know, that'd be great. But Ray, do you want to continue with the thought of others on your journey may no longer be aligned with you, right? So your
yeah.
walk takes you out of alignment with other people, correct?
Yeah, I think both Sang and Yoloki in our previous discussions have mentioned the whole idea that when a shift is occurring, others may not like it. Others may say, "Hey, I love that," or "This is not what I want." So there's that continual shift, which there again, everything is relational. As you change yourself, you change the conditions and the people indirectly around you. So just an interesting idea to toss out for others. Have they experienced that, or what does it mean when that starts to happen?
Well, and it's again going back to what Jaloki was talking about before, which was it's about the process, right? You don't have to have this figured out, but you can also begin to see what's not working. If you're so focused on what your result is, you're going to be missing all. I mean, one of the gifts, going back to what Claudia said, one of the gifts of deconditioning is that it opens your eyes up to a lot of things that you didn't see before. Is that fair, Jaloki?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe so. And to go back to well, to what you just said, and Ray, there's this introduction of a sentence. We live in a times when, we live in times when, and so I believe we live in times when humans, us, are individually invited to radical choices. Either we change radically and we decondition ourselves, and so we may have a chance to save humanity individually, or we don't, and we continue on the suicidal path, because we are on a suicidal path collectively. But the choice is individual. And some of us make the choice and some of us don't. And those of us who make the choice, of course, it's difficult and it works, it doesn't work, etc. But all of a sudden, we become the identity change. I'd be interested in Sang on take on that, but I feel that when I make my choice, okay, I'm gonna walk this integrity path. I'm gonna look different. I'm gonna sound different. I'm gonna feel different for people around me, people who've known me, people who've loved me, or people who've hated me, and they are not going to necessarily accept it. It may be challenging for them, okay? Because then it's like I'm throwing the question in their face: are you walking your integrity path? Okay. If you're not, well, it seems that we're not on the same path here. And can you accept that? Can I accept that? Either I walk this path, you don't, and that's fine, or we're I'm trying to pull someone in the integrity and they're trying to pull me in the non-integrity. I don't know if that's the
Well, we have
an
Claudia.
expression.
Would you like to, since
Yeah.
we've been tossing your name around, I see that you've raised your hand again. What wonderful pearls of wisdom can you continue to offer us?
Well, about the conditioning and what I have found as I have gone deeper into my divine truth is what I call it. I have found, I look out into the world and I see all the chaos, and I see it affecting people that I love. And and I'm not going to lie, it affects me too, until I can pull myself back into my divine truth. But what I have found is, and I'm thinking specifically of, I have two beautiful daughters, and they are at times riding this chaos in this outer dimension and becoming very, very anxious because of it. And so then when they come to me with their anxiety, of course, my first response is I want to alleviate that for them. But, we're not all on the same walk at the same time. And I have realized that although I see both of my daughters growing in their spiritual path, their path is not, and I hate to sound, well, I'm not. They're on their spiritual path, but they haven't had as long a time as I have to be on that path. Right. So, but what both of them has said to me is that I call you because you show me the peace. You show me peace. And so that is part of my living in my divine truth. And if that's what I can give to them at this point, then of course I'm going to give that to them. If they cannot hear what else, if they're not ready on their path to hear what else I have to say, that's okay. Because eventually they'll find it on their own. And maybe what I have said will be just a spark for them further down the road.
Right.
When they are ready to hear it.
Well, go ahead, keep going. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was pretty much finished. I just wanted to say that, we show ourselves, our authentic selves, and people will align with it or not.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I cannot, and as part of my authentic self, I cannot be upset when they don't align with it.
Correct.
Because they're not on where I'm at, and they're not, they're on their own path.
That's right. And what you're inviting,
and so I have to love that too.
Right. And what you're inviting us to consider, which was going back to, what Jaloki was talking about earlier, which is the choice changes everything, right? The ability to choose. The integrity walk opens up this idea that you are a different person. You have a different resonance. And it may be a resonance that some people are attracted to, but it may also be a resonance that people can return to, but they may not always be in a parallel path with, right? And so it's again, going through this process of deconditioning doesn't, again, like Jaloki was saying to us earlier, we're not focused on some kind of Shangri-La moment where we're all sitting around singing Kumbaya, expecting that that's the goal that we're looking for, because other people have their truths to live, right? And if your choice of doing the integrity walk is to change the world, the world's going to provide you with an awful lot of experiences to let you recognize how much dissonance there is in that walk. Does that make sense? Because what we're inviting you to consider for a moment is that, again, the choice changes you. The walk begins to move you into a new resonance. That new resonance brings in people that um, uh, it tosses out some people that you're not in alignment with. It brings in some people that you are alignment with. But if you're not so focused on getting to some goal, you'll also see the beauty of the distance of the people who walk in and the people who walk on and walk around. Yeah, Ray, I see you nodding. I see you saying nodding. So who wants to jump in?
Oh, I'll let Sang jump in.
I want to share what Claudia was talking about with her children, because I am the same way with my son and my daughter. Knowing I can see, it's like having a fortune teller ball in front of me, right, where I can see what's about to happen. They're not going to listen yet because it's not their time. However, I get to drop those nuggets. I get to ask them questions that live within them to get them to think, because it may not be their moment. And for me, I know I'm just ready for whatever happens. I'm there because I'm the same way, Claudia, is that I bring the peace to a conversation for them. When the world is chaotic or something outside of them has become chaotic and they come in, and to be that for your children is something different, because we want to fix it. I want to fix it when any of my people come to me with a problem. I want to just, like, if I had an easy button, guys, I would do that for you. But they all know I'm going to ask these questions. I'm going to ask hard questions. I'm going to ask those in your face questions that may sting a little bit, but also gets them to think a little bit harder, because no one did that for me. Right. And so being able to do that for someone else makes me feel great, but I also know that from human to human, I'm making a difference by even asking a question that no one is ever going to ask you.
Right. In the Breakthrough Show Network chat on YouTube, Jessica put a comment in saying that she's looking for people living their truth who also like to sing Kumbaya around the fire and eat
Yeah.
s'mores. So
Yeah.
joy is part of it, and I'm not trying to negate the idea that singing Kumbaya isn't a wonderful thing, but there's also a lot of other songs to sing. And what mothers know, and remind us of so often, is that again, that walk that others are on is really important for them to have their own journey and their own experience. This isn't about trying to say, if I'm walking my integrity, that means that your integrity has to look just like mine, and we have to walk this way. I see you smile again, Jaloki. Do you see a lot of people who kind of say, well, I'm happy. You have to be in your alignment with my unhappiness. I'm in integrity. This is what it should look like for everyone.
Yeah, well, I think it applied to a certain degree to many of us, including maybe myself. I catch myself. However, I think Ray was about to say something earlier, so I defer to Ray right now. Yeah.
I'm always I'm always happy to defer to you, Loki, because I'm always learning something new, and there's always a different perspective. I'll just loop back to what Claudia and Sang were sharing with us. Is we bring peace to others in very unforeseen ways. Is just by what I heard a while ago is the world is very polarized, or the system that we're conditioned to is it's either black or white. It's either choice one or choice two. The idea was the third option. If you introduce at least a third option, then all of a sudden things start to shift, because then you realize that it isn't just A or B anymore. And that option is what I really resonated with when you were talking to your children, your adult children, no doubt, is it stays, the idea stays, and it's the timing, whether it happens right away or later on. I like the fact that you put that little spark into their heads, both of you, that, oh, I didn't think about that, because that's what people in conversation, oh, I didn't think about that, or I didn't consider that. Well, that's that piece or third option that you're bringing to others.
All right. So that tosses the ball back to you, Jaloki, now that Ray has had his piece.
Oh, um, um, earlier, well, actually, Sang, you addressed that. How people uh, react. I'm gonna try to put words into something that is a little, it's still vague in my mind. It's a kind of intuitive. I feel that for me, so bear with me. There's a little nuance, a little adjustment. I'll just go and say it, and I welcome
Of course.
responses.
Yeah.
If I am in a situation where I can offer a spark,
Mhm.
it's not for the person. It's because it's in my integrity work.
Mhm.
Whether it's good for them or not, I cannot know, I cannot judge. Whether
Mhm.
they're gonna use it or not, it may feel that I'm relinquishing responsibility, but actually I think I have to be radical with my path.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry to say it, it may hurt people. I don't want to hurt people. I absolutely not want to hurt people, but I'm going to hurt people
Of course.
if
Right.
I remain in my path of integrity.
Well,
Yeah, go
no, no,
ahead, go
no.
ahead.
Keep going, please.
This may be on the side. It's not exactly the center of what we're talking about. I've been in the US in white black racial conversation. Okay, so mixed race group, especially men, and we're talking. And something that I felt different from other people, maybe especially white men, was okay, we're here, we want to create a safe space, we don't want to hurt each other. I'm telling them, I'm sorry, I'm going to be myself. And I'm going to say things and I'm going to do things that will hurt you, because when you're yourself, you do things and you say things that hurt me. So we're not going to shy away from that. We're going to hurt ourselves and we're going to heal together.
Mhm.
Actually, the hurt is where we need to go to actually heal and transform and reconnect. And I know it may not always land well.
No, I
No.
think, Jaliki, what you're speaking to is the difference between fix it culture and heal it culture.
Yes,
Yeah.
And many men are still caught in well, that sort of again, improper use of masculine energy means we have to fix it, and the fix that we get, everybody has to go along with the fix that I've created, right?
Yeah.
Whereas
Yep.
the divine feminine energy is still looking and saying, well, what can we do to heal this situation? So healing means that as part of the healing process, we're going to be touching into things that are wounds that need to be healed. And if
Yes.
just in the same way that Claudia doesn't want to change her, well, okay, well, I have all this, stuff figured out in my world. Let me just spew it out to you right now. Oh, you're not catching on to it right away. What's wrong with you? That is not a healing. That's a fix it sort of culture gone. And again, nothing personal about the journey. It's this really, again, conditioned behavior that we've been told that, well, we're going to create a safe space to have a conversation. And so that means, well, wait, then that means we are going to rub against each other. We are going to get hurt. We are going to expose some things. We're going to feel those out of integrity spaces, but we don't give up on the process, right, of healing, because we're not so wedded to the result of the fix that it has to look like this. Saying there, I can see there's an experience there that is wanting to emerge.
Well, all I can think about is when you're a kid and you have a bobo, right? And your mom is gonna put peroxide and probably alcohol on it, right? And she's telling you exactly what's gonna happen, right? But every time she does something, she tells you, "I'm gonna blow it. It's gonna be okay. I'm gonna make it feel better," right? I think of it as it's the same thing I do when I'm walking with and talking with clients, whether it's in a group or a private setting, right? I tell them, I'm gonna say some things you're not gonna like. I'm going to say some things that are probably going to piss you off. I'm going to say some things that are going to make you really probably mad at me and maybe mad at your neighbor. You don't even know what this neighbor did yet, right? Because I'm going to say things that most people aren't willing to say to you, whether it's in this circle or not in this circle. But the only way to address it is to say it. And so that's when I then invite people when something gets said that is not of their liking or doesn't sit well with them for whatever that is, that then becomes the invitation to sit in that and go, what is that for me? What was it about what she said, or was it something specific that she said, or he or whomever that really got me charged for some reason, right? Even though she told me, I'm going to put this peroxide on here and it might sting a little bit and I'm going to blow it, I'm going to be okay. But also now, what was it that I didn't like about the peroxide that she put on, right? What is it, the words that she didn't like that I said? What did not sit well with me for me to go invite myself to go inward, to go, where does that come from? Because that's where it's your internal conversation that comes out.
Right, but it's also that reminder to always stay in the process, right? Rather not
Mhm.
into the results. So when you are walking your integrity, you're aware, we talked about are you ready to begin it? And one of the things that I love about everything that we've discussed in this time together is looking at all of the different elements that you want to be able to have in your awareness field as you're beginning to take that walk, right?
Mhm.
Claudia said something in the chat a while back that said if you have to say that your integrity must match my integrity, that's a conditioning moment, right? That wonderful world of recognizing that if you are going to walk into a new behavior, you're going to be encountering along the way all sorts of conditioned behaviors that are invitations to decondition. And just like Jaloki has reminded us, it's going to it's going to create some friction, some pain points, because
Sure.
that's where we what you said at the very beginning, saying we fall back on what's comfortable, right? And if it hurts to be able to share, from this new awareness of all the things that you were deconditioning. But one of the things that you hinted at in that last little conversation is taking responsibility to inform others that there may be pain encountered ahead. Does that make sense? I love
Yeah.
you dearly. I want to be able to have this journey. I'm glad we're walking together. A lot of my conditioned behavior is going to spill out,
Mhm.
and this is going to sting a little bit before it heals.
Right.
And I want you to be okay with my goal in this moment of healing that wound isn't to cause you harm, but is to recognize that there's a wound that needs to be healed, right? And that, just like it is with so many things, especially when we are changing behavior, when we're embracing the power of the choice that Jaloki was talking about, we also have to again come back to raise pause and say, well, okay, what's happening here? And can I be a good mom in the moment and make sure that I inform the other people that I'm walking with and use I statements. I'm about to do something that will, may sting a little bit at the beginning, not throwing it on them, recognizing that you're taking that accountability for yourself first. Raymond, was there something that wanted to pop out?
I just have a short story
Please.
in regards to the boo boo and the hydrogen peroxide. Is I had my wisdom teeth extracted when I was older, 29, which is considered old to have wisdom teeth taken out. So the surgeon said, "We're going to put you under." He says, "You'll be good. You'll be good to go in 3 or 4 days." Well, 7 days later, I was not good to go, and I went back to him and I said, "Is there something wrong? Like I feel terrible." And he
Mhm.
said, "Oh," he said, you need another 5 days." And I said, "Well, you said 4." He said, "Oh, if we told you that it was going to be 9 days, you wouldn't have the surgery done." And I went, "Are you kidding? I'm self-employed." I says, "I would have taken those days off." But just
Wow.
the conditioning that we were not used to being in discomfort or talking about discomfort.
See, it's things like that that grind my gears. when you've trusted a doctor to tell you something that affects your life, right? Oh, by the way, we should have told you it was going to be 9 days. That like
They
really
decided.
years, right? Because they
Yeah.
decided something for you rather than sharing the information up front to let you decide, how do I get to then live my life? How do I then have to plan my life? But now I'm thinking something's wrong with me and I have to go do this, which is why I will tell people when they work with me, you will be sitting in the closet at some point crying. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. Like, if I were going to lie to you, and this is what I've told my kids too, if I were going to lie to you, I would do you a disservice just as much as I would do myself a disservice.
Right.
And so by saying, are there going to be times when you're in the closet crying? Yes. Are there going to be in the times when you're in your car and you want to have road rage on every person on the planet? Yes. But I promise you, when you start letting one person by and then you start letting another person by and just say, you know what, let me just back up and be kind for a moment, that changes your whole mood, your whole energy. And all it takes is one decision to make that.
Right.
And so that grinds my gears, Ray. So you let me know who that doctor is, because that's
Well,
yeah.
and remember, we're live on YouTube, so we won't go with anybody doctor disclaimer.
No names.
Like, I'll write him a nice note.
Jessica raised the same sort of concern, which is that part of the challenge we have through this is that the combination of mismatched integrities, mismatched goals, mismatched principles, plus poor or a lack of communication, causes real issues. And again, one of the things that I love these conversations because none of this was scripted ahead of time in terms of where we can go. We're not living Ray's 5-point plan, although I really appreciated what you put forward in the chat. But part of walking in integrity, part of making any choice that you're doing is recognizing that your choices are going to have impacts on others. And you may also, while you're having a different communication process with yourself, we might want to invite you to have a different communication process with others and find out whether or not the language choices that you're using on your integrity walk are in alignment with what you want to be able to communicate. Because that is that idea that, we are walking with other people, that other people will be invited to our resonance. Some people will fall away. Some people will be drawn in. But that community, if part of your walk is to just simply do the monastic walk and not speak, that may be your choice. But you're also going to be coming in contact with people who are going to be trying to poke something out of you, right? So even your nonverbal communication will be communicating something about you. So if you're going to walk, there's the word. If you're going to walk, it also may begin to change your talk. So those two things are. We're coming up at the end of our time together. We don't have much time in this hour. I'm so appreciative of all the new voices that have been expressed out today. Is there anything, Jaloki? Is there anything that you would like to round us with as we're heading out at the end of our hour?
Just briefly, because I want to leave time for the others too. I think we are at a time when, beyond the individual choice, humanity is being invited to walk the integrity walk. And I believe I'm introducing a new subject here. Maybe that's what the Pope encyclical letter was about.
Well, that may be the actual perfect ending. Was anybody else wanting to offer beyond that?
As always, my invitation is for everybody to just think about, it could be one small thing. It could be 5 more minutes of waking up 5 minutes earlier. It could be writing something for 5 more minutes. It's literally the smallest of things that you could do to make a big difference if you just make that choice and conscious effort to do it.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Well, look, one of the things that we get to do every week is have this conversation. You can watch us on YouTube. You can come in the room and join us. And you can actually, after we get done with our broadcast, you can come to RSS Live and we're going to share some of the things that we didn't say while we were online. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to continue a little bit of the conversation just because we can. So I am so grateful for all of the wisdom shared in this room. And again, I invite everyone back here next week. We are so grateful that the Breakthrough Show Network allows us to send our beacon out into their channel. So thank you, Jessica Dugas, and all the people at the Breakthrough Show Network. We'll see you back here next week. Until then, take Sang's advice and wake up to see what's emerging in your world. And we will look forward to seeing you back here next week.